Okay, hello again to everyone. So I'm back to you with the global feedback for your letter of request from yesterday. So something that kind of dawned on me as I was answering, or as I was looking at your answers, is that when I make these lessons, I'm kind of making them as if it's the same group of people who are watching me every time. But that's not necessarily the case at all, because I mean, every week there are new people coming in, and every week there are people getting the scores they need. So obviously they have no reason to continue studying for the IELTS test. So I think what would be good for any of the newer students, because I'm kind of progressing from one thing to the next. What I think would be very useful is if you guys go in and go to the Facebook group, which you're obviously in already, and on the left you'll see where you can click on the videos. Now, I've only been making these demo lessons since January this year, but if you go back and you watch the older ones, answer the question that's given at the end of each video, and then look at the global feedback, I mean, it would be just as beneficial to you as it is, or as it was for the people who answered the question on the week or on the day that I posted that lesson, that video. So if you're newer to the group, I would just suggest go back and go through the old demo lessons, because you will get a lot out of those. And also, there are kind of things where I'm starting to repeat myself, so there are similar things coming back up again. So I think it would make sense to go through the older ones. Right, so first we'll just look at the question that you guys had here. So I think it was straightforward enough, and it didn't really cause much confusion. In fact, it caused none. There were no real problems with any of it. In particular, so there was actually one problem, and this wasn't related to the question, this was more related to people answering the wrong question. So basically, as you watch the demo lesson, I'm going through a question, and the purpose of that is to give you advice on, basically the advice is on mistakes that were made in the past, typical mistakes that were made in the past by people in this group, and also me just kind of predicting what problems you might have with the question. Then at the end of the lesson, I'll give you a similar question, and that question at the end is the one that I want you to answer. So you need to watch the video right up to the end, and the question you're to answer will always be like the last 5-10 seconds of the video. But make sure you watch the full video first, just so that I'm not trying to correct mistakes that I've already discussed in the lesson. So any of you who answered the wrong question, I've just told you that you didn't answer the right question, or whatever way I phrased it. But basically, I just want to tell you that the reason that I'm not giving you detailed feedback on that answer is because when I make this demo lesson, we all need to be on the same page. So basically, if I'm trying to give you feedback on answers to 2 different questions at the same time, it doesn't work. It's not going to work out that way. So basically, next time round, just make sure to watch the video to the end, and then you'll see the question that I want you to post your answers for. So strengths in particular, the first one is tone, and the reason that I saw this as a strength was because it was something that students in this group struggled with quite a bit before. So I can just see that there's a much more kind of friendly approach, much more natural approach, and the language being used and the structures being used are much more appropriate for an informal letter, which you had to write for this question. So much improvement on the style and the tone. The second one is answering the question. Now, this might seem like a pretty obvious thing to do, but the fact is that you need to do 4 things. So you need to paraphrase that statement at the start, and you need to respond to the 3 prompts, and everybody did that. I mean, it's logical that you should do it, but it's not always the case that people do. So this is great that everybody that answered was able to do these 4 things, and I mean, that's really step 1, but a very essential step towards getting the score you need. Third thing, this is something I mentioned in the past, was essay length. So, I mean, if you write an essay that's just barely above 150 words, I'm not happy with that, because my presumption is that you had to stop and count how many words you wrote. That's a waste of time. So the other end of the spectrum then is if you're writing close to 200 or over 200 words, you're losing time that you need for planning, writing, checking for mistakes, and all the rest of it. So it's more of a time management thing is my problem with the essay length. So you're all writing nicely balanced between, you're looking at around 170. I mean, a little bit above or below that obviously is fine, but just so that you can look at your essay and not have to count how many words, but also you're not writing so much that you're losing time. The final one then, giving equal attention to each prompt. So this is just referring to the prompts, or the 3 bullet points in the question. And let me just pull up the question here. I have a screenshot. So what we're looking at here is this one. So this, and this that I've highlighted. So what you want to do is write about 50 words for each one. So let's say, for example, if you wrote 150 words for the first prompt, if you wrote 100 words for the first prompt, then 25 for this and 25 for this, it just means that the last 2 are not being developed as much as they should be. So basically, you want to be given equal attention to each prompt, developing them equally, because you need to develop each one to get a good score. So you're looking for a good sized paragraph of about 50 words, but don't lose the run of yourself and write too much about one, too little about another. But you didn't. It was a strength, and obviously this is why I'm pointing it out, but just to be aware that you need to continue doing this. Okay, so usually what I do is piece together a strong answer by taking paragraphs from different students and assembling them as one answer, but there was no real reason to do that this week, because all of your answers were strong. All of your answers are strong, except for the few weaknesses that I'm going to point out here. So, I mean, basically, use the information I'm giving you in the next part of the lesson to assess your own writing, and with those changes, you will have a very strong answer. So, weaknesses, the first part was the paraphrase missing an element of the question statement. So, what I mean by that, let me just pull up this again. So, if you look at this is what I'm referring to as the question statement. And basically, some people say that they're planning a trip abroad in the summer, but they're not saying before you start your new job. Now, it's not up to you to decide what part of the question you're going to include and which part of the question you're not going to include. You need to include all of this. This is what the question was, this is what you need to do. So just have a look at your own paraphrase and see if you included all of those, all of those different parts, or if you just did half. Obviously, half isn't acceptable. Next thing, grammar. I mean, I would be incredibly surprised to find any letter without some grammar mistakes. But the level of grammar mistakes is the problem. So some of you guys, I'd say more than half you guys have grammar mistakes in every sentence. It's going to be hard for you to get a good score if you're doing that. And I know it takes time, and I know everybody wants an easier way of doing it, but you're just going to have to sit down and get it done. So, I mean, you can just, like, a great resource is the writing correction service. So once you get your feedback, you're looking at all the different corrections to your grammar, and you need to just figure out, like, what are the typical mistakes you're making, and just work on those for now. I mean, that's the quickest way to improve your grammar score by far. I'm sure you've heard Chris say it a million times as well, but it's true. So there's no other way of saying it. Vocabulary errors. The main issue with vocabulary errors here was basically people using words that they thought were appropriate but were not. So it wasn't so much collocations this week. It was more people trying to use like fancy or like high-level sounding words that just didn't suit the essay or didn't suit the context. So just be a little bit more careful with that also. These are areas that take quite a while to improve, but again, like you can't ignore them. You really can't ignore them if you want a high score. Okay, so basically weaknesses. This is the main one, and this is one that I went through with you guys in the demo lesson. I actually mentioned this in the demo lesson, and this came up in previous lessons. So basically, what I would like you to do is make it clear from the first sentence of the paragraph that you are responding to the prompt that was given. So what I want you to do, first let me just explain. What you're looking at on the screen is 3 random paragraphs from 3 random people. But the reality is that, like, everybody except one student, of the answers I looked at, only one student did not have any of these, like, errors where all of their paragraphs made it obvious what the paragraph was about. So what I want you to do, look at the 3 paragraphs here, and I want you to determine where in the paragraph are they showing what the purpose of the paragraph is. So the purpose of the paragraph should be what was in the prompt. So I just want you to pause the video, take a look, and then, like, determine in each of these 3 paragraphs, where are they showing the purpose. Okay, so what I've done is I've underlined on the screen here. So if you just look, the first one, this journey will help me to refresh my body and soul. So this is where they've, like, responded to what it said in the prompt. But I would like if that was at the start. Now, if this underlined part of the paragraph here was at the start, then the rest of the information wouldn't need to be changed because it's still, like, explaining this or giving more information about this. But as it is, the purpose isn't clear until towards the end of the paragraph. That's not great. This one here, that's why I selected Dubai. Again, if that was at the start, everything else in the paragraph would have been fine. And here, I would be happy if you will use your credit card. So don't worry about the grammar. But again, if that had been at the start, then the purpose of the paragraph is clear. It's responding directly to the prompt that was given. And all the other information is perfect. All you have to do is follow it up with exactly what has already been said. Now, this is genuinely, most of you have done this. So just go back and read the first line of each paragraph, particularly paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. So read the first sentence and only the first sentence, and then read the prompt that it should be responding to. And just determine if you have actually stated clearly that this prompt is what the paragraph is about, or is it like these paragraphs on the screen here, and is it coming up later in your paragraph? Now, like I said, we dealt with this. This is like my 3rd time dealing with this, and it's not a big deal. It's not a hard thing for you to do. Essentially, you're still using the same vocabulary and the same information. You're just putting it at the start just to make it very, very clear that you are doing what you should be doing. Just that. Okay, so that's pretty much it with the weaknesses. So what I have for you then is 4 sentences that contain errors. This is just to give you a bit of a practice with error correction and grammar. So I want you to pause the video, and when you have corrected the grammar, so get a pen and pencil and try to correct the grammar mistakes in these 4 sentences. When you're ready, press play and compare with the corrections that I made. Okay, so here are my corrections. Again, just pause the video to compare and continue then when you're ready. So what I've done this week is I've taken it a little step further. So what I've done is I've also changed, so I want you to look at the red sentences in front of you and see if you can adapt these to make them more informal. So make them less formal, more appropriate for the letter for this letter for the question that you just answered. So again, pause the video, try to rewrite the 4 sentences in red to make them less formal. Okay, so here's what I came up with. And basically these 4 sentences are now, I mean, they're still grammatically correct, but just they would be more suitable for a letter to a friend because that's what it is. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to say to you guys today. So thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments under this video. I'll get back to you from Monday to Friday. I check in every day. So if you have any questions, just please let me know, and I'm more than happy to get back to you. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.